Hello, welcome to Commissioner's Corner. I'm Commissioner Charlotte Garrido representing South Kitsap and District 2. Today, let's talk about Kitsap County's Surface and Stormwater Management Program. We're going to also talk a little bit about a new newsletter that's come out for a particular watershed in South Kitsap. But first of all, just a few minutes to talk about Surface and Stormwater Program. Because Kitsap County experiences so much rainfall, we're a peninsula that's nearly surrounded by water. We have lots of valuable tributaries and streams in Kitsap County. We know that we need to be very careful about erosion and pollution problems that might relate to the water quality and quantity in Kitsap County, so that we have put together a surface and stormwater management program that several agencies work on. They include the Health District, the Kitsap Health District, the Kitsap Conservation District, Washington State University, Kitsap Extension, and Kitsap County's own Public Works Department, the Surface and Stormwater Division. They address, each of these agencies helps us address projects that protect people, property, and natural resources in Kitsap County by addressing water quality and water quantity. And recently, we've put together a wonderful newsletter for a South Kitsap area, Manchester and Long Lake watersheds. And in that newsletter, it includes some valuable information. Actually, here's what the newsletter looks like. It's several pages long, and it has some valuable information about shellfish, about rain gardens, about how to work on water quality issues, and even how to volunteer on stewardship, in stewardship ways. I've invited some people here today who work in particular areas related to surface and stormwater management. And I'd like each of them to address just a little bit about the projects that they're currently working on. So first of all, let's hear from Jana Erickson, Kitsap County's Public Works Surface and Stormwater Management Division. Jana, you want to tell us a little bit about some of the work that you're doing?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner Garrido. I'm Jana Erickson. I work for the county's Surface and Stormwater Management Division within the Public Works Department. And I work on a variety of education and outreach activities related to water quality and stormwater pollution. One of the things that I work on with municipalities from across the Puget Sound region is a mass media campaign called Puget Sound Starts Here. You may have seen these ads on television or heard them on the radio, and next month you'll see them on buses as you're driving around the peninsula. And what Puget Sound Starts Here means is that Puget Sound starts wherever you are. Whether you're at home or driving to work or in your office, Puget Sound starts wherever rain falls on the land, and it washes whatever pollution might be on the ground into our local creeks and our storm drains, and that polluted runoff flows directly to Puget Sound without going through a stormwater treatment at all. It does not go through any sort of treatment facility. So Puget Sound is being impacted by all of this polluted runoff. In fact, it's been identified that stormwater pollution is one of the primary culprits of the declining health of Puget Sound. And so what Puget Sound Starts Here also means is that the recovery and the health of Puget Sound starts with activities that residents can do and the daily choices that we make. And so one of the things that's really easy people can do is to choose compost instead of chemicals when caring for their yard. Compost provides a lot of the same benefits that pesticides and herbicides and fertilizers would, but without the harmful chemicals that would end up in our creeks and our shorelines. It nourishes plants, and it suppresses the weeds if you use a thick layer of mulch. And so you can really achieve the same benefits without using chemicals. Another thing that residents can do is to choose to take their car to a commercial car wash, which recycles their water, and none of the polluted runoff reaches the storm drains from the commercial car wash. If you don't have a commercial car wash in your area, you can wash it at home on the grass or on the gravel driveway where the runoff will soak into the ground. What you don't want to have happen is the runoff going down your street and into the storm drain because it's carrying all of the heavy metals and the oils, hydrocarbons, and other pollutants from your vehicle into the creeks. And the problem is especially bad in the summer when car washing is most prevalent and the creeks are at their lowest levels because there's not enough water in the creeks to dilute the pollution from car washing. So really it's the best choice year-round to take it to a commercial car wash. And another thing that people can do is to pick up after their dogs at home at least weekly, if not more often, and bag the waste and put it in the trash. It might seem like a small problem, but dogs in Kitsap County actually produce over 11 tons of dog waste every day. And that adds up to a city of approximately 17,000 people if they didn't have sewage treatment. So it's really an impact to our local waterways to have that fecal coliform bacteria coming into them from pet waste. And so it's important to scoop. One of the things that the county is doing to help people remember to pick up their pet waste in public places is the Community Mutt program. This has been a very popular program. The county provides free stations with the scooper bags to community groups to install in neighborhoods or along creeks or beaches and trails. And over 100,000 bags were used in 2010 alone, and that represents about 47 tons of dog waste that was diverted from surface waters where people are swimming and harvesting shellfish. And so we see this as a really successful program for our waterways and for keeping the waste out of them.
Oh, Jana, thank you very much. You're really full of valuable tidbits of information. So thank you for explaining your program. And I know that you've been working on public education for a long time, and you know how to put information together in valuable ways, and in ways that people can understand and recognize their own neighborhoods and their own watersheds. So thanks a lot for being here today.
Thank you.
So now let's turn to Stuart Whitford, who is with Kitsap Health District. Stuart, what can you tell us about the Yukon Harbor Restoration Project?
Well, thanks, Charlotte. Thanks for having me. Well, the Yukon Harbor Restoration Project really started in 2001 when the state downgraded shellfish classification in that area. And we were asked to go in and basically be pollution detectives to figure out why that was occurring. And so essentially what we did is we collected a huge number of samples down on the shoreline. We tracked back those samples, the ones that were hot for fecal bacteria, back to sources, and we ended up knocking on a lot of doors and doing septic system surveys. Also, we looked at farms, and what we found was we found about 52 failing septic systems that were impacting the shoreline through 2006, and since then, all of those now have been corrected, and so it was a very successful project that we had. And we've been working in the area since. In 2008, we went back to the area and we investigated some contamination at the Pomeroy Park. There's an outfall there that had some contamination, fecal contamination. And we were able to track that back to a failing septic system and also some businesses that weren't managing their mop water properly. So those things were fixed, and lo and behold, the stormwater outfall got much cleaner. And to this point, it still is in fairly decent shape. And most currently, we now have a grant through the Environmental Protection Agency to look at shellfish growing areas countywide. And one of those areas obviously is Yukon Harbor, so we're back again doing shoreline surveys, looking for pollution hotspots and following those back to their source. And we just started in Yukon Harbor, this most recent project, and we're going to do a dry season survey of the area, and also we'll come back during the rainy season and look at it then. We hope, and what we expect to find, is that it's not going to be as bad as it was back in 2001 because of all the corrections that were made. But any problems that we do find, we'll get those fixed quickly, and that'll help to keep the shellfish areas open for harvest, both recreationally and commercially. In addition to those cleanup efforts, which are our target, we're also monitoring the beach at Pomeroy Park on a weekly basis, and we do that to protect swimmers and waders, primarily children. We also monitor the outfalls that are going onto the beach there. And and we will notify people if there's problems with signage and also on our webpage. And so we think that's an important program as well.
Well, thank you. Why don't you tell us just a little bit more about what you test for when you say you take water samples, and what do some of your signs say?
Yeah. Well, the primary indicator, the thing that we test for is fecal coliform bacteria, which is a group of bacteria that's in your gut, essentially. And we can test for that in samples. We can't tell whether it's human or animal. There's different ways to do that. But that's what we test for. To figure out, for example, if your septic system is failing, say you live on the shoreline, we collect a sample from a drain that's coming off your bulkhead, and it's high for bacteria. Well, we can use a dye tracing technique to figure out if it's your septic system that's causing that, or if perhaps it might be your neighbor's septic system that's causing that. Because as septic systems get older, they will either, they start to fail, so they either back up into your house, or they'll start surfacing in your drain field, or they might leak into a curtain drain system or something like that. And we can use the dye tracing techniques to figure that out. When we have areas that are contaminated for bacteria, where we want kids primarily to stay out of, we'll post a sign, and it basically says, warning, elevated levels of bacteria, please stay out of the water.
Great. So, how long have you been working on Yukon Harbor?
Yukon Harbor since 2001.
That's right, you did say that.
So we're going on about 10 years now, and we expect to be there into perpetuity, just to protect the shellfish growing areas and make sure that the shoreline is clean.
Great. Well, thank you. I think that we'll take a brief break. I know that we want to talk to a couple more people about their projects as well, so we'll take a quick break and be right back. Welcome back. We're going to be talking right now with Teresa Brooks with the Kitsap Conservation District, who's going to talk to us about the rain garden program. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you, Commissioner Garrido, for having me here. And the rain garden program is a program that started in 2010, and Mindy Fohn had researched stormwater management technique back east, and she found that it was very successful, so she tried to get that approach to work in Kitsap County, and came up with a system for technical assistance for people, as well as a $500 cost share. So the program took off in 2010, and we had a goal of reaching 100 rain garden applications, and we were able to meet that first year. And lots of people were excited about the program. The very first rain garden cost share sign-up person was in the South District.
Good.
So it was your district, and that was the Shandera family, and they got a rain garden that was in the Yukon Harbor. So they had all the water from their house go into the rain garden, which helped the water to slow down and soak into the ground versus going over the surface and causing erosion and flooding in Salmonberry Creek, and eventually carrying all that water down to Yukon Harbor. So I guess I should explain what a rain garden is.
Please do.
To start with. A rain garden is basically a stormwater management approach where you take the runoff from impervious areas that, like a roof or a paved area that the water can't soak through. Those areas, you take that water and you direct it into a depression in the ground. And it's got special rain garden topsoil that's a sand compost mix. And the water goes into the rain garden and it ponds there a little bit, maybe a 6 to 10 inch deep pond during the rain event. And when the rain event is over, the water has time to soak into the ground, and usually within 2 days the water will completely have soaked into the ground. The rain garden is also planted with native plants, and the microbes and the roots of the plants break down the pollutants and soak up the water and just clean it up and filter it. So they're a brand new technique really in the last few years for managing stormwater. on the parcel itself versus the old system of just getting rid of the water through ditches and pipes and stormwater drains. That method got the water very quickly into the Puget Sound. And as Jana was explaining, it carries the pollutants very quickly down into the Puget Sound, and then it's not able to handle all those pollutants anymore with the population increases that we've had. So that's the rain garden itself, and there's been quite a few people that have jumped right in and used their resources and their time and their effort and money to put in a rain garden, and they do get a cost share amount, but they all have put their own money in that into it. So I'm very proud and honored to work with them because they're doing this just for their community and for the Puget Sound. Many of them live uphill of another landowner, and they just voluntarily put in the rain garden and their lot to reduce the flooding down below for the people below them. So a lot of times the people at the bottom of the hill receive most of the water, and they're the ones that have the water issues, the erosion and the flooding, but that's not necessarily the best place to locate the rain gardens. It's the people above them that could really help out the community by putting the rain gardens at the top of the hill, so the water soaks into the ground and reduces in volume before you get to the bottom. So it's a whole community effort that needs to take place, and these people, like I said, the Shanderas, they were the first ones to start. They put a rain garden in. Also the Fishmans, they're in the Sinclair water shed, and they put a rain garden in that would treat their roof water as well as their parking area water. And that water will go into the rain garden. It'll have time to soak into the ground and filter and clean up. And they have an unnamed stream that borders their property. And so that reduces the amount of water that gets into that stream, at least all at once. And so by soaking it into the ground, it acts like a sponge. It holds onto the water so that the water doesn't rush down and cause erosion in those streams real quickly. Instead, it will soak like a sponge, and then in the summer there'll be more water left for the earth to release into the streams. So the streams can be stabilized throughout the year.
So they look really, and they do a really important function, but they are also fairly attractive, aren't they?
Yes, they're absolutely beautiful. We have quite a few rain gardens that people can look at right now. There's the Village Green Golf Course, who we put a public viewing demonstration garden there at the golf course in Port Orchard, and that's a rather large rain garden. Yep. And it's planted with native plants, and it's got a nice split rail fence, and that was done in cooperation with a whole bunch of agencies, Dory Lechner with the Parks and Recreation, and Chuck Smiley with Surface and Stormwater Management, and us with Kitsap Conservation District. We all work together and we put that one in, and it collects all the water from the parking area at the golf course in Port Orchard, and it's just phenomenal how well it works. The water rushes in there and it fills up, but it doesn't outflow from it. It just all soaks in, and the plants are doing really well there.
I actually walked on the golf course before there was a rain garden, and it was pretty mushy in quite a few places. So it's nice now to have a firm surface to walk on,
yes,
and still an attractive rain garden to look at.
They're very, very, very pretty. So another person that put one in is Mark Lee, and he's in the off the shoreline. So the shoreline is another important area to just reduce the damage of water that comes down to the shoreline. So he put his in. It's very beautiful. He just wanted to help his neighbors, so he totally was just concerned about the neighbors below him, and so he put his rain garden in. All the water from his home and driveway area goes into the rain garden, and driveways are particularly pollutant because of the cars, and like Jane was saying, the car washing, but just the oils and the brake dust and just that kind of thing, oil dripping, those kind of things would be really highly polluted. But if you put them into the rain garden has time to break those things down. And it's amazing what the microbes will do and just break that down. So it goes through Mark's rain garden, and then it goes out from his rain garden into a forested area. and then the neighbor below him doesn't have to receive that water all rushing down there at once.
So what are 3 or 4 of the favorite plants to be used in a rain garden?
The favorite plants? The favorite plants are the natives. We like to use dwarf red twig dogwood because the branches are nice and red in the winter, so you have leaf and flower in the spring and summer, and then you've got this nice red. There's also yellow twig dogwood that you can put in. We put a lot of sedges in because the rain garden, zone 1 gets flooded and the plants need to be able to be completely saturated at times, so those would be sedges and rushes. You know, like red currant, a lot of people like red currant. There's all kinds of mock orange, has really nice fragrant flowers that you can put in there. So there's a wide variety of plants that you can put in.
Great. Well, thank you. That's a nice explanation. I look forward to seeing more of the rain gardens that have been installed. So let's talk now to you, Glynis Casey, who works with Washington State University, Kitsap Extension, Shore,
I'm a
Stream, Forest and
steward.
Stream. Okay.
And
And you're a volunteer steward.
I'm a volunteer.
Well, tell us
I'm
about that.
Happy to be a volunteer. I think it's a wonderful program. There's opportunity to learn about the forests and as well as help be out there and help keep them healthy. One of the program provides field experience as well as the training, and we look at trees, we look at the health of the trees, how many trees there are, the number of species, and the goal is to be able to understand what's going on out there and ensure the health and vigor and the long-term growth of our forests in Kitsap County. And trees provide a lot of benefits to streams and water quality, as well as opportunities for people to be out there and enjoy recreating. And
So tell us a little bit about the training that you received to do the volunteer work that you're doing, and how many other folks are doing it?
The training is with the WSU. Arno Bergstrom runs the training, and we learn a little bit about silviculture, which is tending to trees, and we learn how to measure and tally, and it's kind of focusing the data gathering so that all the information that we gain out in the field can be put into a program that's consistent in all the different areas. And there's great people that are volunteering out there. Our group, we've broken out into different groups depending on whether we're in South Kitsap, Central Kitsap, or North Kitsap, and we choose our parks to look at and measure, and but there's a big talent of people who join the volunteer program.
So is the notebook in front of you indicative of some of the materials that you use for your task?
Right. There's lots of you have access to a lot of information. So we have WSU resource information and Kitsap County resource information. So it's a great way to integrate all the materials that are out there, and that's one of the benefits, I think, that being a volunteer is I get an opportunity to learn as much as I'm putting back. And putting back means going out and walking the trails and being out in the sun.
So do you have some
trees.
favorite parks or trails that you're working on projects?
I'm working at Banner Park right now, and I love it.
Well, I love Banner Forest as well, so I hope to see you out there sometime.
Yes, yeah. It's also a great way when you're out there. You meet all the park goers, and so it's a great way to interact with people too.
Sure, and hopefully there will be some opportunities to help put together some broader educational programs for users of Banner Forest, so that they're appreciating some of the silviculture that they're seeing, some of the entire ecosystem that they're seeing as they walk through the forest as well.
Sure. Hopefully it'll result in that the data that we find out there will get analyzed, and they'll be able to use that to make recommendations and ensure healthy forests for everyone.
Well, pretty exciting work that both of you are doing. I'm intrigued, though, again, with the rain gardens and why they're so valuable in this area. They can be all kinds of sizes, is that true?
Yeah, they are usually sized based on the area of impervious area.
Impervious means what?
It means it doesn't soak in rain
Oh.
or water. So that area would be concrete and roof and things like that that don't accept water. So usually you can take between 10 and 20% of the area size of that and make the garden that size. So gardens can be rather small compared to the area that they treat, which is really an advantage. And they work really good here. We have a lot of sandy, gravelly type soils, and some areas are not suitable, like clay areas and that kind of thing. Some areas are hard pan, which means you have to make it a little bigger in order to give it time to soak in, because hard pan doesn't soak in as well.
Sure.
So there's a lot of, that's why a site visit is necessary for the homeowner. So that's when they contact us and we come out and we do a site visit so that we can do a soil test and we can help them locate it in a proper area.
So how do they contact you?
Usually I get contacted through email. So that's my favorite way of being contacted, because I get my email 24/7. Where my phone, when you call the phone, I have to be in the office to get the phone calls, and those phone calls, well, I'm out in the field quite a bit, so they kind of build up a little bit.
Tell us your email.
My email is hard to do. It's t-brooks@conservewa.net. So that's t-brooksconservewa.net.
Thank you.
It's kinda like-
Thank you. I hope you get many, many contacts
I do too,
about the
yes.
project. Thank you both for being here. As a matter of fact, I want to thank all of the guests today for the wonderful talents and information that they brought to us. Don't forget to take a look. I think there will be some of these at the library too, but Manchester and Long Lake communities will receive this. And if I didn't say it earlier, this is the first newsletter that's gone out to a particular watershed, but in the future there will be other watersheds throughout the county that will receive them for their watershed, so that neighborhoods will be getting information that's more specific to them and their neighborhoods, and hopefully they can generate some conversations about what's going on and what they can individually and as a community be able to do. So thank you to each of you, all four of you. And I'd also like to, I hope that the residents of Manchester and Long Lake will appreciate the information that they've received, and I know that will generate conversations. These are being mailed now. I was at a community meeting last night where people were talking about this particular handout, and so they were really excited about it, and I think it'll probably lead to some new projects in Manchester and the Long Lake area. And I want to thank you for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the topic, and we'll see you next time.